Listen up, for this isn't any ordinary moment. It's your time. You've been seen, examined, and spoken about. And the verdict is in. They cannot stop talking about you. Your presence shocks the room before you even enter. Your name survives long after you've gone. They are infatuated with you, whether they love or hate you. You are more than simply a character in the tale. The tale revolves around you. You move with purpose, raising, growing, and achieving victory after win. There's a carnival of onlookers spinning stories simply to keep up with you. They don't understand it yet, but every word they say, every story they propagate, strengthens your position. They believed they were pulling you down, but instead they placed you on a pedestal. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Allow them to play their little games. Because of you, you're made differently. You don't just endure the loudness. You thrive in it. This is where legends are created. This is when you exceed even their highest hopes. The choice has been taken, and the truth is clear. You're the one. Your presence sends waves across reality, stirring the invisible and changing the unshakable. Others' obsession is not on you, but on their inner conflict, an unacknowledged mirror of their deepest inconsistencies. Like an invisible force shaping reality in its path, your essence destroys stagnation and causes anything which opposes development to shatter. They assemble not out of volition, but out of necessity, bound by the weight of your existence. Their words and scrutiny, their attraction never ends. This is not about you. It's the tremor of their own distress, the echo of their battle against a reality they refuse to embrace. You are the harbinger of exposure, the presence that shatters delusion wherever you go. Deception unravels due to inevitability rather than purpose. There is no escape from the force you wield. It dismantles, reshapes, and compels everyone to confront what lies underneath. You are not simply put here. Your mission shapes you. Fire refined your essence to the point that it could no longer be ignored. What you carry disturbs people who gain from dishonesty. The world does not just adapt to your presence. It reconfigures the folds that are dissolving in the midst of indisputable power, which manifests itself in resonance rather than opposition. A seamless alignment with forces considerably bigger than the adversary itself. Those who resist are not hostile. They are the relics of an obsolete order that is about to collapse under its own weight. You do not fight fruitless wars. You walk with the confidence of someone who knows. Resistance is temporary, a shadow created by people who are not aligned. Your authority is not gained. It is inherent, interwoven into the very core of your existence. What stands in your way is not an impediment, but a lesson written in the language of restriction, exposing not your limits, but theirs. Their dissatisfaction is not yours to bear. It marks the beginning of their change. You do not need to put in any effort. No persuading. There's no debate. Just by being. You impose growth on all who cross your way. Their resistance isn't defiance. It is a forerunner to their own judgment. You don't disrupt for the sake of mayhem. You are the shift itself, the axis around which the unseen pivots. Whatever emerges in opposition does so not to question, but to undo. Their defeat is not your victory. It is the inevitable outcome of the forces put in action by your presence. Comprehension eludes them not because you are unknowable, but because they are unable to see beyond their own constraints. You are not an observer in the magnificent orchestration of reality. You are the rhythm, the undercurrent, and the force that forms the very structure of reality. When you move, the invisible shifts. The veils weaken, and the illusions they formerly depended on vanish. They are not watching in awe, but in desperation. Their thoughts are constantly revolving in an effort to bridge the gap between what they know and what you disclose. They reacted. Their tales. They need to define you. It is not a reflection of who you are, but rather an admission of who they are not. You are the mirror that they cannot shatter. The unwavering mirror of everything they have yet to assert about themselves. Their preoccupation is not your responsibility. It's their tacit admittance, proof of their own internal battle. You have not been exposed to the clamor of people who clutch at shadows. Your essence stays steadfast, unyielding, undisturbed, and in this unwavering presence. You provoke not with aim, but by nature. They hold on. They are resistant. But the earth underneath them has already shifted. Their distress is not an assault. It is the ultimate echo of a planet that can no longer withstand your presence. No weapon made against you will flourish. You will condemn every mouth that comes up against you in judgment. Isaiah 5417. Imagine this. A lighthouse stands tall in the midst of a violent storm. The winds wail. The waves crash. Nevertheless, the lighthouse remains stationary. It does not flinch. It does not flicker. It was designed to resist the storm, not succumb to it. You are the lighthouse. The storm is loud, unrelenting, and fierce, but it only exists because of the light it is attempting to vanquish. And yet, no matter how strong the wind, the light persists. It guides. It glows. It accomplishes precisely what it was intended to do. They poked. They prod. They analyze every aspect of your life. Not because you are weak, but because your presence is undeniably powerful. You are the evidence they didn't want to see. Their issue is not yours. Their struggle is with a truth that will not bend. They tried to make sense of what they weren't supposed to grasp, attempting to condense the infinite into something tiny enough to fit inside their restricted view. But you don't fit. You were not intended to. The ones who oppose you are not fighters. They're relics. The remnants of a dying system, clutching frantically to what no longer bears weight. Their resistance isn't a weapon. It's an indication of their own collapse. The more they attempt to undermine you, the more their own foundation collapses under them. Their demise is not the struggle you choose. It is the logical outcome of being in the path of something that cannot be stopped. You don't degrade yourself to their level. You rise to a point where they cannot follow. Every effort to discredit you, every deception spoken in the hopes of persuading the mob has just one goal: exposure. They believe they're writing your narrative, but they're really exposing their own. The louder they get, the more people recognize them for who they actually are. Stuck, bitter, desperate to grasp onto something that has already gone through their fingers. They were so preoccupied monitoring you and attempting to keep you confined that they missed the walls closing in around them. You do not have to quiet them. You do not have to fight them. Their own words will betray them. They were resentful, afraid, and obsessed. It's not a reflection on you. It's a mirror aimed at themselves. And as time passes, that mirror will reveal everything they have refused to see. So, let them chat. Allow them to waste their breath. Allow them to throw all they have. In a frantic effort to shake you, the lighthouse does not fight the storm. It just glows. And when the waves smash and the winds calm, the light will still be there, unmoved, unbreakable, and everlasting. You were picked for this. You were made for this. Nothing created against you will stand. You are not just caught up in the tremendous unfolding of reality. You are the pulse that sets the beat. Attempts to dull your light bounce back, revealing not your weakness, but theirs. The energy they aim at you is not harmful. It emphasizes that every attempt to unravel you just strengthens the bonds of your goal. Their resistance enhances your presence. Their confusion strengthens your clarity. What they refer to as an assault is nothing more than an instrument in a symphony that was never theirs. To conduct, their reach is restricted because you go beyond their reality. You are the immovable constant. The power against which they battle in vain demonstrates their limits. No storm can destroy you. No amount of opposition can change the path that has been set out for you. What individuals see as impediments are really accelerators. Each effort to stifle you simply serves to strengthen the roots of your foundation. The factors they fear will break you are really the components that strengthen your position, making you impenetrable by design. Their battle is not a barricade. It is a discovery that exposes more of your true character with each effort to hide it. You embody a contradiction. They want to weaken you, but their attempts simply increase your impact. Their voices are not shackles. They are the last echoes of a falling edifice, demonstrating that you are still beyond their reach. You don't desire conflict. You surpass it. Their attempts to force you into obscurity just highlight what they seek to overlook. You are not just protected. You're unshaken. A presence that converts every opposition into proof of its own inevitability. Their defeat is not your victory. It is a certainty embedded in the fabric of time. Their utterances are frantic and unmoored, confusing loudness for significa and grabbing at illusions as if they could stop what is already in motion. They don't jail you. They entangle themselves. The more they try to suppress you, the more obvious their own limits become. They shrink inside their own tails. You move unrestrictedly and freely. You're not here by chance. If you sense a tug, a knowledge deep inside, but you were picked, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and contribute $50 or more to get deeper insights, unique information, and a path that fits with your divine destiny. This is not only a gift, it's a proclamation, a step toward being the person you were intended to be. Take the call, walk with us, and totally embrace your destiny. Your adventure starts now. The weight of reality dismantles everything that is founded on untruth. Nonetheless, they continue to battle against the inevitable, thinking that their voices would rewrite what has already been written. But truth does not bend or surrender. Your very presence weakens the fabric of their illusions. Cut through deceit with easy accuracy. They label you, discard you, and try to frame you in their narrow comprehension. Not because you are incorrect, but because they are unable to imagine a future in which their illusions no longer retain force. They refer to themselves as walls, yet they are nothing more than faded echoes. You don't pursue shadows. You eliminate them. The stone the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. Psalm 118, verse 22. Consider this a seed buried deep into the earth. Initially, it seems to be nothing. It's covered and concealed, forgotten. But suddenly the roots start to push. The stem begins to rise. And before they know it, what they had hoped to keep hidden has emerged. They didn't anticipate it to expand. They didn't feel it had enough strength. But what about something planted on purpose? It does not need their consent to increase. That's you. They dumped dirt on your name, attempting to bury you under their misgivings. Their words, their warped stories. They believed that if they covered you up, you would vanish. But you were not buried. You were planted. And now, as they scurry, they see all they've attempted to create against you crumble. You've already gone past them. The more they attempted to confine you, the deeper your roots became. The higher you climbed. What was supposed to shatter you instead made you unshakable. And now, as they had anticipated, the last of their fight has faded into stillness. They believed their words could outlive you. They believed their plans would slow you down. But all of it, whispers, hearsay, and ceaseless efforts to change your narrative. None of this mattered, because truth does not need permission to stand tall. Truth is unwavering, does not apologize, and does not seek validation, truth, or justice. They'll attempt to twist the narrative immediately. Observe them. They will move, rewrite, and distort their own words in a frantic effort to regain control. But it is too late. You have already traveled too far ahead. You are too far gone for them to reach. They remain trapped in the rubble of their own creating while you go ahead. Focus on what was always intended for you. You do not slow down. You do not turn back. You don't interact. Leave a comment. I am a force that cannot be moved. What power did they ever have if their assaults failed, their doubts crumbled, and their plans unraveled in front of their own eyes? They never had control. They lost sight of themselves when they became obsessed on you. And now desperation is all they have left. Let them scurry. Let them strive to undo what has already been done. Let them try to persuade the world that they still have control over your tail. It won't work, since as soon as they said your name, they gave over the pin. And now you have to compose the finale. They intended to break you. Instead, they unveiled themselves. They believed they could delete you. Instead, they carved your name into the fabric of their own demise. And the greatest part? You never had to move a finger. You did not fight them. You outgrown them. You did not quiet them. They burnt themselves out. You did not defend yourself. Their own words did it for you. The road extends ahead. The horizon is clear. And you're already gone. Allow them to speak. Let them scurry. You've already won. They flood the air with words, looking for affirmation in the cacophony. But you are unaffected. You don't waste energy on meaningless diversions. They misinterpret your quiet as capitulation, failing to see that stillness is where power resides, where the storm intensifies before it breaks. You do not proclaim your actions. You do not ask for permission. Their voices escalate in feverish desperation, striving to draw you into their turmoil, but you stay out of their grasp. They want a reply because they are empty and have been denied the fuel they crave. They crumble under the weight of their own voices. They profess knowledge by their constant chatter, mistaking noise for insight. But real insight does not seek recognition. It doesn't compete for space. You realize what others don't get. Silence is not the same as absence. It is precise. It is the moment before impact. They watch you, waiting for revenge. But you owe them nothing. You do not carry out their instruction. You also don't play their game. They lash out, but their words spread like dust, powerless in the face of a presence they are unable to shake. There is no need to protect what is already untouchable. As a result, their confidence is shaken. Their confidence falls. They turn within, looking for an explanation for their failure. They seek to make you reconsider. You, however, refuse to submit. They let loose their anguish, desperate to alert you to their disarray. But every attempt vanishes into the vacuum, leaving just you unshaken and unyielding. They don't defeat you. They disclose their own limitations and weaknesses in the face of something beyond their control. They move without direction, grasping for illusions, mistaking their loudness for conviction. They accuse you of wavering, not because you do, but because you refuse to be influenced by their falsehoods. Every effort to define you reveals their own instability. You do not combat ghosts. You allowed them to exhaust themselves, showing their lack of stability. Their voices will reach for you. However, your quiet will devour them. They require that you justify, explain, and meet their expectations. However, you do not exist to alleviate their suffering. A force does not negotiate its own existence. An immobile building does not respond to the passing breezes. You have nothing to prove to those who have already been lost in their own contradictions. They label you arrogant for refusing to bow. They consider you dangerous because your presence reveals what they lack. They dread your confidence because it pushes them to face their own vulnerability. Their opposition does not indicate that you have failed. It is the most visible demonstration of your strength as their fight develops. Their voices will get frenzied. Their charges are hollow. Their attempts to undermine you will only strengthen a foundation that was never theirs to disturb. You don't seek approval. It is their responsibility to deal with their misunderstanding. And we know that in everything, God works for the good of those who love Him and have been called according to His plan. Romans 8:28. Let me explain anything about pressure. Have you ever seen how a diamond is made? It does not originate from a position of comfort. It does not develop in the open air, lying beneath the sun. No, it's buried deep under the ground, concealed in darkness and crushed by awful weight. The pressure is unrelenting. The heat is strong. However, over time, the same pressure, the same power intended to demolish, builds something impenetrable. That's you. They believe they might drag you down. Silence. You press yourself into the earth and depart. You've forgotten. But what they didn't realize was that pressure does not kill the selected. It refines them. Every hardship they imposed on you made you stronger. Every obstacle they threw at you served to polish your spirit. You did not just suffer it. You went through it and were changed. What comes against you is not a stumbling hurdle. It's raw energy begging to be molded by your hands. The weight they attempted to put on you does not keep you down. It is the thing that transforms you into somebody bigger. They intended to crush you, but all they did was polish the brightness God had already put inside you. You do not dodge. You don't withdraw. You don't shrink back. You transform their attention on you. Only feeds your mission. Their misgivings just strengthen your conviction. They resisted. That's the wind in your sails, propelling you even farther. And this is why you don't respond. That is why you don't interact. Because you understand who you are. You aren't a pawn in that mayhem. You are not influenced by their ideas. You determine what takes root in your thoughts, what influences your spirit, what drives your destiny. You do not take on their toxicity. You extract the knowledge, the lesson, and the fire, and you allow the rest to burn out. You observe. The opponent does not assault. What doesn't constitute a threat? They wouldn't be so loud, desperate, and unrelenting. They wouldn't be so focused if you weren't already living your mission. If you weren't already out of reach, they want a response. Proof that they have influence in your environment. But you do not respond to them. You have not been called to struggle with shadows. You are not picked to squander your energy on challenges that are under your level. You are meant to ascend. So you keep going. You keep expanding. You continue to thrive when others toss stones. You construct while they plan. You rise while they are fixated on you. You concentrate on your mission. And that's what distinguishes you. Because their words will eventually vanish. Their attempts will collapse. When the dust settles, you'll still be standing. They attempted to write your tale, but God had already written the finale. They believed they could break you, but all they did was show that you were unbreakable. They wanted you to respond. Instead, you arose. That's why, regardless of what they do, you've already won. Transformation is not restricted to materials formed in fire. It is the art of transforming chaos into clarity, weakness into power. You absorb nothing that does not benefit your progress. What does not fit into your growth withers under its own weight. Their efforts to unmake you merely prove the inevitable. You are never supposed to stay in one spot. Their disagreements were never a problem. It was evidence that you were present. While they are preoccupied with their obsessions, this serves as a signal that you have already gone beyond what they can grasp. You climb unharmed and unshaken. The road you choose is not undiscovered. Those who bring about change, who draw insight from the unknown and create it into reality, have always encountered opposition. The cycle consists of old voices rising in revolt and accusations flung like stones. Not because you fail, but because your presence shakes the brittle frameworks they rely on. They are not opposed to what you say. They fight because your mere existence compels them to confront facts they cannot endure. Those whose lives are founded on borrowed assurance will constantly flinch from the weight of revelation. Their reluctance to perceive does not weaken your vision. Their rejection is indicative of their own limitations. History does not favor those who are comfortable. Those who ventured outside the boundaries of their time were always faced with terror, disguised as authority. Ignorance is disguised as righteousness. They will try to twist your story and drive you into definitions that fit their constraints. However, you were never designed to fit inside their limitations. You go beyond categorization, beyond whatever illusion they try to impose while scrambling to retain what was. You stand firm, already becoming what has yet to be. You move on a frequency that others cannot understand. Their scorn originates from ignorance. Their animosity stems from the quiet destruction of their own illusions. Validation is not necessary. Just like the river does not stop to ask the earth for permission to cut its path. However, even the most solid foundation eventually gives way. Truth does not vanish. It transforms everything in its path. This is not the first time individuals confined by restriction have recoiled at the power of what they are unable to hold. Their opponents have no weight. Their reluctance to comprehend does not slow you down. You're here to carry out a plan that began long before they understood who you were. Let them mutter. Allow them to cast shadows. Allow them to remain skeptical. Nothing changes. The image you carry will last long after their voices have faded. That turmoil isn't yours to absorb their unbalance, not yours to repair as they spiral, seeking for attention and attempting to suck you into their chaos. You stay motionless. You do not respond. You don't entertain. Distraction. Mastery is understanding when to guard your energy and when to reject to engage in noise that you do not own. You hone your attention, increase your clarity, and rise. Their preoccupation does not represent you. It is an indicator of their own stagnation. While they obsess, you ascend. The noise gets more distant. A faint murmur faded under the force of your ascent. The more you go, the smaller they get till they evaporate into irrelevance. It was never about them. It was always about your mission, your path, and your unwavering confidence. Let them grip. Allow them to exhaust themselves, attempting to grasp what was never theirs to retain. You have already transcended their words, which have deteriorated in their own lips and lost their weight after being repeated so many times. You do not have to quiet them. They have already made themselves unheard. The world is no longer listening. They once held people's attention. Now there is just apathy. Their formerly dominating voice is now a weary echo, discarded as inconsequential. They recite the same stale script, believing that their story will change the facts. However, truth does not buckle under the weight of repetition. It is still obvious, and everyone has seen it for what it is. You don't protect yourself. Their unraveling has accomplished that for you. They wanted control, but they lost it when they became obsessed with you. Each word they say betrays them. Their own dishonesty works against them. The more they press, the more they break. Their credibility is eroding, their presence dwindling, and many who previously listened are now turning away, disinterested in their monotonous act. Let them cling to the catastrophe they created. Allow them to drown in the cacophony they have made. You owe them nothing. No explanation, no answer, not even an acknowledgement. The weight of their failure is theirs to bear. Speak the truth without hesitation. Those who matter will understand. Those who never did will fall into oblivion, forgotten,